there any car makes or models that you absolutely avoid purchasing for your lot?
All right, so yeah, I'm a car dealer. I sell these cars that are $5,000 and under. So I'm in a unique place to know a lot of these vehicles that you really should stay away from. You got to think about the kind of cars that I buy that are $5,000 and under. They're typically higher mileage things. They're typically older cars. So when I go to auctions, these are the kind of cars that I look at. And the situation that I put in is that I can know what cars last a very long time and what cars don't last very long at all. And there's a lot of common cars that I see out there that last 300, 350, 400,000 miles that I see pop up at auction. And those are your obvious ones, your Hondas, your Honda Accords, your Civics, your Toyota Camrys, your Toyota Corollas. Those are the kind of cars that last a very long time, but also know the ones that when they get to 150,000 miles, they're not going to last at all. And the biggest one that I can point out that I always see and I always stay away from is going to be anything that has the Nissan badge on it that also is a CVT. And a lot of times you'll hear somebody say a CVT transmission, but the T in the CVT is a transmission. So, those are transmissions that don't actually change gears when you're driving down the road. The problem is that there's a bigger strain on those type of transmissions than your normal operating transmission that changes gears. So a lot of those transmissions didn't last very long. Once you get to 125 to 150,000 miles, those things would just go out on you. And the specific ones that I'm thinking about is a 2007 Nissan Altima and up. Now, before the 2007, like a 2002 to 2006 Nissan Altima, they had regular transmissions. Those were fine in the 4 cylinders, but the 2007 and up were absolute garbage. But I can talk about the ones that we bought before with Nissan that were not the CVTs. And the 2002 2006 Nissan Altimas, the 4 cylinders were really good, just like I said. But the 6 cylinders, those motors were not good, and the transmissions that they put in those vehicles, even though they were standard transmissions, they were also not good. So it was very important to us when we were buying those kind of Nissan Altimas, which we sold very well, that was always a 4 cylinders, because the 6 cylinders were bad about head gaskets. We'd stay away from them. Another brand that I don't really like to buy are Volkswagens. And within the kind of cars, and you can throw Audi into that too. Audi into that too. I always say that wrong. But you can, there's always some kind of major oil leak that's going on with just about every Volkswagen that I've dealt with that's over 150, 175,000 miles. Seems like the rear main seals on those things were absolute garbage. Over time, I bought Passats, I bought Jettas. I've even bought some of the Beetles, the new Beetles, ugliest cars ever made, I think. But all of them had major oil leaks, big time problems with those. Another brand that I would stay away from were the older Dodge like trucks, and you think Durangos, your Rams. It just seems like they always had some kind of transmission issue or common motor problems. Now, I don't want to sound like I just hate Dodges and Rams. It's just in the kinds of vehicles that I had to buy at my price point, seems like they always had these common issues that would pop up. Now, GM had the motors that had a bunch of lifter problems, things like that, which were common, but they didn't have transmission common problems to go with that. Ford, in a big span of like Ford Explorers, like they had a lot of transmission problems, but they typically didn't have the big time motor common problems that we dealt with. But with Dodge, with the Durangos and with the Rams, the trucks that I had to buy, it seems like motor and transmission were always commonly a problem. All right, what else? I won't say Hyundais and Kias, because you can get really good ones out of those depending on the different models. Another brand that I've stayed away from quite a bit has been Cadillacs. Now, I will say there's a caveat with that, because I used to buy a lot of Cadillacs, and I would buy the ones with the North Star motors. And you can hear either great things about North Star motors or bad things. These were the motors that came in these Cadillacs. And that's 100% true, what I just said. So I would always look at Cadillacs that had over 150,000 miles, because it seems with these North Star motors, you either got a great one or you got a horrible one, and there was no in between. So I knew that if I was buying one that had over 150,000 miles, one, either the motor had been changed already from the bad one that it had, or it had one of the good North Star motors that lasted for a very long time. So that's one car. If you're just looking at like a just kind of a blanket statement of should you buy it or should you not, I would probably stay away from just anything Cadillac, the big body, the DTSs, the Sevilles, older body style with those cars with the North Star motors. Probably not something you want to get into. And lately, we've actually changed our tune on some car. Like we used to buy Terrains, Acadias, the Chevy Equinox. All these are on the same kind of drivetrain. They have the same motors that are in them. There's a couple other that fit into, I think, Buick Enclave. Enclave, is that how you say it?
I think so.
Yeah, that's the same kind of drivetrain in all of those. GM makes one similar car across multiple brands that it actually produces. But they're really bad about their timing. We've had a lot of issues with the motors, and we've just recently given up on those because of how much we've had to put into fixing motors on these SUVs. They've always been good sellers for us, so people like them. They're very popular. But when we actually break out what we're spending the most money on of common cars that we buy, those were popping up over and over and over again. And eventually, I mean, we could say, okay, we're wrong about thinking that these cars are something that we should buy for our lot. And we basically just pulled the plug on buying those. So when Alex and I, when we're actually walking around looking at cars, we don't even stop to check those cars anymore for when we're at the auction. So yeah, stay far away from those. Big time problems.
Your Model S, if I remember correctly, had a fairly new battery. Anything you could recommend to get a used Tesla with a newer battery?
That's not going to be information that you're going to be able to have access to. The only reason that I was able to check on this and know this is because I make YouTube videos. So we had a buddy who is actually you probably know him, that covers the EV space, a lot of the Tesla stuff. Farzad is that's his channel, and good friend of mine. And he had a viewer that works at Tesla. I went on and did an interview with him with Farzad, and the guy who works at Tesla reached out to Farzad, and then Farzad gave me his contact, and I was able to have an inside scoop with Tesla, where any car that I was looking at auction that was a Tesla, I was able to send him the VIN, and he could send me everything that's been done to that car. So this is why I bought the Model S that I have, and why I was just going to buy it no matter what it went for at the auction. Luckily, it went for a good price in my mind. But it had a new battery. And what I mean, I know a lot of people say that no, you had a reconditioned battery, and the guy from Tesla told me that had a new battery replaced within the last like 500 miles of me buying it. So I can tell you that my the maximum battery the maximum mileage that I can get on my Tesla is like 375 miles, and I think that's right at what it said it was rated for whenever it was sold new. So I have had no deterioration from my battery, and that would lead me also to believe that I have a brand new battery in my Tesla. Maybe it's a reconditioned battery. Maybe they are able to do it good enough to be able to have it to where I have the maximum capacity of what a brand new one had. But this is, I believe this guy, and I had the privilege of being able to know that it had at least a reconditioned battery, but probably a brand new battery is what he was telling me. And you're not going to be able to know that. What you can check when you're buying a used Tesla is you can have the owner, whatever, when you're going to go look at it, actually fill it up or charge it all the way to 80%, and then look at what's the full percentage, the mileage range or whatever was whenever it was sold new. And then you can do the math, figure out what 80% of that is, see what the mileage is that the car is actually rated for. Because what I've learned when I was looking at the used cars is each car is actually pulls the miles back when the battery deteriorates. It doesn't go off a percentage of what the original battery should have actually had the capability of doing. It moves with the car. So if your car battery deteriorates a little bit, then the actual mileage and your percentages will work accordingly with the specific car. So if you can do that, do the math on it, then you can actually tell how much that battery life has actually lost, how much mileage that car has worth on a full charge, on an 80% charge. And as long as it's within like that 10 to 15% deterioration, was what seems normal after a few years, then you're fine to buy it. From what I also have read in the research I've done, is that they're going to lose the most of their deterioration very quickly, and then it's going to be a very slow loss over time. Now, obviously, we don't have a ton of data because Teslas have only been out, I mean, where we are selling them mass for the last, what, 10 years. So we do need some more data from them actually manufacturing more cars, seeing a lot more miles on these cars. I know there's going to be stories out there, people 300,000 miles, 400,000 miles, 500,000 miles on their Teslas, and they've only lost 20% or 10, 15%, whatever. That's not the main, like for ICE cars, we have sample size of 100 years, and we have hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands of cars that have 300,000 miles where we can actually put a lot of data behind it. Tesla, we're just not there yet. So I still feel comfortable buying a used Tesla. And if you're going to buy a Tesla, I would rather it be used, honestly, because the depreciation on these things is awful. So I would definitely buy one that's used, but there's easy ways to check the battery to see what the current car is able to do in its current state.